At one point, Danny Koker's popular show Counting Cars appeared to be a utopia, a gathering spot for devoted friends and bespoke cars. However, as with every empire, fissures appeared. Fans were left with more questions than answers when familiar faces disappeared. Some peacefully departed, some were forced to go, and some left behind rumors of drama and treachery that never really went away. Your perception of the show will be permanently altered by the reality of what actually transpired within Kustoms. Prepare yourself. Due to Danny Koker's final announcement of the 5 worst workers who were left out, Rolly Sabo was a favorite among fans from the beginning of Counting Cars. Known by his nickname Rockin' Raleigh, he served as both the comic relief and the shop's detailer. Raleigh's large personality, easy laugh, and heavy Hungarian accent made him stand out in every scene. Raleigh turned the garage into a party whether he was vacuuming the cars inside, polishing chrome, or cracking jokes with Kevin and Danny. But there was true brilliance hidden beneath the jokes. Raleigh was the primary detailer, ensuring that every completed vehicle looked flawless before it was returned to the customer or captured on camera. When Rolly worked, smudges, fingerprints, and dust had no chance. He was meticulous in his work, and Danny frequently complimented him on it. He was adored by his fans, and each season saw an increase in his popularity. His absence was so puzzling because of this. From season 2 to season 6, Rolly appeared on the show on a regular basis. Then he vanished without warning. No team member ever discussed it, and there was no farewell scene or explanation. The rumors continued to spread as usual because of the stillness. According to some, Raleigh got into a heated argument with other employees. Some muttered that he had been sacked for repeatedly arriving late or clashing with the TV show's producers. In 2017, the most concerning news was published when it was reported in the press that Rolly's trailer, which contained detailing tools and equipment valued at thousands of dollars, had been stolen. Local Las Vegas news verified that the theft was authentic. Rolly shared a brief social media post on the incident, expressing his sadness and distress. However, he fell silent after that. It's interesting that Rolly's departure was free of legal issues. He was not the subject of any litigation or allegations, and neither Danny nor the team made any public complaints. This implies that if there was an issue, it was resolved discreetly inside the store and remained that way. After his trailer was stolen, some supporters think Rolly decided to go because he was fed up with the effort and eager to start over on his own. And he did precisely that. Rolly Sabo has his own mobile detailing service in Las Vegas called Rockin' Raleigh Custom Detailing. Even though he isn't on TV anymore, he still fixes automobiles. And based on what people say, he performs admirably. His company has a large following of devoted clients, and his reputation for meticulous craftsmanship has endured. Rolly has remained silent about his true motivation for leaving, like many others who quit counting cars. Not all exits are about public altercations, as seen by his calm departure and his joyful countenance on TV after a private conflict. They occasionally deal with individual decisions and fresh starts. What about someone whose very existence was a clash of hues and personalities, if a quiet departure can create a stir? Mike Henry was the rock star of Counting Cars. Mike brought something crazy to the garage that no one else could match with his well-known horned helmet, vibrant mohawks, and boundless enthusiasm. He wasn't there merely to make jokes, though. Mike, the primary airbrush artist for the program, possessed a unique combination of genuine talent and wild ideas. Mike's paintwork transformed automobiles, bikes, and even helmets into moving works of art, ranging from fire-breathing skulls to bizarre sci-fi scenarios. His distinct style, humorous anecdotes, and genuine enthusiasm for pushing the boundaries of bespoke design won him over many fans. However, his enthusiasm frequently resulted in issues. Despite Danny Koker's admiration for Mike's skill, there were numerous instances where their viewpoints diverged, both on and off camera. Mike enjoyed taking risks, breaking the rules, and making audacious claims. Conversely, Danny had to safeguard his company, fulfill deadlines, and ensure client satisfaction whilst being receptive to fresh ideas. At times, this stress became unmanageable. Additionally, it was reported that Mike struggled to meet the expectations of the show. Mike alluded to the strain of working under strict deadlines in interviews and social media remarks. This required filming scenes, following producer instructions, and attempting to complete intricate designs. He suffered from the strain of being a reality TV star and an artist full-time. Mike's on-screen time began to decrease throughout the years. Though not as frequently as he did at the beginning of the show, he continued to make appearances in episodes. While some admirers thought he had decided to work less, others questioned whether he had been evicted. Eventually, Mike began concentrating on Horny Mike Designs, his own company. His Las Vegas-based company has expanded into a full-fledged enterprise. He sells motorcycle helmets, custom airbrush products, and one-of-a-kind sculptures that would look more at home in an art museum than a garage. Mike is also quite active on social media, sharing behind-the-scenes glimpses into his world, jokes, and his projects. In contrast to certain previous cast members, Mike maintained a close relationship with Kustoms. Despite his frequent arguments with Danny Koker, Mike is still remembered as one of the most memorable employees at Scott Jones's Kustoms garage. Let's now examine a departure that ultimately remained lawfully clean while being shrouded in mystery and suspicions of financial difficulties. Scott Jones was in charge of maintaining order in the early seasons of Counting Cars. As the shop manager and bookkeeper for the first 2 seasons of Counting Cars, Scott did not win over fans with a warm personality or ostentatious style. Instead, he was the one who kept track of money, made sure that things were done on time, and occasionally said no while Danny Koker was the center of the shop and the rest of the crew worked on painting and fixing cars. He was straightforward, metric-driven, and obviously more concerned with safeguarding the company's finances than amusing the public. He was therefore a figure that people either admired or despised. However, his presence was crucial, at least initially, in a field where building custom cars might cost tens of thousands of dollars and deadlines were always approaching. Scott's numerous clashes with Danny on TV were the source of the tension in his portrayal. Scott was the one who kept Danny grounded in reality, even though he frequently made rash, emotional decisions like accepting impromptu redesigns or approving pricey components. It was repeatedly seen by the audience. Danny pushed back, sometimes very fiercely, when Scott warned that a project was behind schedule or spending too much. On set, there was a lot of hostility, which made collaborating difficult at times. This ongoing tension probably contributed to the difficult environment at the shop, even though it was excellent for television. Then, without much notice, disappeared. He vanished entirely from the show after season 2. There was only silence. No formal explanation on camera, no tearful farewell, and no goodbye. Fans naturally started to ask questions right away, and rumors started to circulate. According to certain claims, Scott was found embezzling money, or perhaps stealing from the company. However, Scott was never charged, in contrast to a subsequent case that would stun the shop. No formal charge, police complaint, or public lawsuit has connected Scott to any criminal activity. His exit was clean from a legal perspective. This distinction is crucial because it distinguishes real legal wrongdoing from TV drama and speculation. Scott's decision to relocate to Tennessee in order to be nearer to his family was the sole justification ever offered, and to his credit, he ended up right there. In Rand Mountain, Tennessee, Scott Jones currently owns Kiker's Extreme Automotive, a high-performance company that specializes in repair, restoration, and custom builds. He even made an appearance on Netflix's Swap Shop, a reality show about small-town American treasure hunters and collectors in recent years. Scott has never discussed his time on vehicle counts in public, despite the rumors, and Danny has remained silent about the true reasons for Scott's resignation. It's still unclear if there were more serious financial disputes or if the tension behind the scenes just got to be too much. It is evident that both men appeared prepared to part ways following 2 demanding seasons, and neither turned back. The tension that ultimately led to his departure was probably increased by his position as the numbers man and his frequent disagreements with Danny about money. Ultimately, Joseph Frontier was betrayed. If Scott Jones's departure was enigmatic, the next one was a complete shock that destroyed Kustoms' reputation for trust. There are silent workers in every workplace, those that mostly blend in, don't make much noise, and are rarely featured on camera. However, often the people who do the most harm are the ones you least expect. Joseph Frontier was that gentleman on Counting Cars. Frontier was more than just a staff worker, even if the majority of viewers most likely did not even recognize his face. He wasn't airbrushing flames or welding automobile frames. The money, on the other hand, was something far more delicate. Frontier was brought in as the company's bookkeeper to handle payroll, monitor expenses, and ensure that Kustoms remained financially stable in the background. His function was crucial at a company that dealt with expensive custom projects and budgets totaling thousands of dollars. However, that quiet accountant found himself at the center of a very noisy issue in 2016. According to court filings, Joseph Frontier was sued by Danny Koker's store, Kustoms, for allegedly stealing over $75,000 from the company. This went beyond simple errors or slight overspending. The allegations were quite serious, specific, and unambiguous. The lawsuit claims that Frontier paid for his personal belongings using corporate funds, including many airline tickets for private travel and a sizable down payment on a Range Rover. The charges were exacerbated by the fact that he allegedly attempted to conceal the money in addition to accepting it. He was accused in the lawsuit of altering bank records to make the theft more difficult to trace and forging Danny's signature on a number of documents. This was a major setback for a business that took pride in its reputation for honesty, dedication, and hard work. According to Danny and his team, Kustoms was more than simply a garage. It was a family. Not only was it unprofessional for someone in that position to break that trust so publicly, but it was also very personal. Danny didn't merely blame the bookkeeper. The lawsuit also accused Randstad USA, the employment company that hired Frontier, of failing to adequately investigate Frontier's past or discuss issues from his previous employment with them. Randstad essentially delivered them a ticking time bomb, according to Count's Habit, and they did nothing about it. Particularly among the show's fans, the lawsuit garnered media attention. The audience was taken aback. No one anticipated a theft scandal to strike the workforce, even though Counting Cars had always displayed some shop stress in the form of sporadic personality conflicts. It was the sort of drama that felt powerful without any editing. However, if you pay close attention to the program, Frontier's departure was handled with an almost uncanny quiet. No final farewell, no explanation from Danny, and no fight on camera. He just vanished completely from the series. The audience was left to make inferences from court documents and news reports while the performance proceeded and the builds went on. The fact that Frontier vanished entirely from the public eye made it all the more bizarre. Joseph Frontier went entirely off the radar, in contrast to some former cast members who subsequently appeared on social media or in interviews. After the lawsuit was made public, he seemed to have completely removed himself. Nobody knows for sure if that was intentional or simply a result of his legal troubles. Regarding the actual legal case, open records indicate that the disagreement ultimately made its way through the judicial system. However, a lot of the last details are still unknown or kept under wraps. Danny Koker never publicly addressed the incident, but Kustoms took it seriously. That quiet says a lot. Danny's decision to keep silent about Frontier may have been his way of setting a boundary for a man who is known for his big personality and love of storytelling. Maybe he didn't want to draw additional attention to the issue, or perhaps the betrayal was too painful for someone who was so devoted to devotion to discuss. This is what is known. Kustoms were permanently damaged by Joseph Frontier's acts. It was about betraying trust, not simply about the money that was taken. That kind of wound does not go away easily for Danny Koker, who based his entire company on artistry, respect, and devotion. The most significant breach of trust is represented by this theft, and Shannon Akau's silent departure is the sole instance of an employee leaving when a crime was verified. After Joseph Frontier's devastating betrayal, we move on to a far more subtle individual whose absence really affected fans. Perhaps the most underappreciated member of the Counting Cars team was Shannon Akau. He was composed, laser-focused, and extremely talented. He wasn't the noisiest person in the garage, but He was among the best when it came to building custom motorcycles. As the primary bike builder for Count's customizations, Shannon contributed to some of the most iconic two-wheel makeovers on the show, and his outstanding work was self-evident. Shannon's father, Jimmy, a longtime friend of the Koker family, instilled in him a passion for all things motorbike. He has been making motorcycles for Count's Kustoms since he met Danny Koker while he was employed at Evil Twin Cycles in Las Vegas. Shannon was there all the time in the earlier seasons. Shannon always provided Danny with something daring, intricate, or totally out of the ordinary. In addition to being technically stunning, his constructions had individuality. During his tenure at Count's Kustoms, Shannon produced over 300 bikes, each one a unique and thrilling experience, whether it was a sleek modern machine designed for speed or a chopper with an old-school flair. However, fans began to notice something odd about Season 7. Shannon was becoming less frequent. The group photos did not include him. He wasn't providing build updates. Additionally, his formerly frequent scenes had been reduced to brief cameos or background roles. Suddenly, he was no longer in the limelight. What precisely took place? There were no public disputes surrounding Shannon's absence, in contrast to other cast members who were embroiled in scandals or legal disputes. There were no conflicts, legal issues, or news reports, Actually, the most prevalent story regarding his departure was that he had subtly shifted his concentration, making it incompatible with counting automobiles. According to several who were aware of the backstage activities, Shannon just did not like the course the show began to take in later seasons. Shannon's world of subdued, intricate motorcycle craftsmanship would have felt marginalized, while counting automobiles concentrated more on high-drama editing, custom hot rods, and celebrity builds. Despite being well-regarded, Shannon's expertise may have lost significance due to the show's shifting focus. According to some additional rumors, there may be creative differences. While producers concentrated on developing storylines that would appeal to TV viewers, Shannon could have desired more latitude in how his builds were displayed. He didn't fuss for whatever reason. He simply moved out of the way of the cameras. However, leaving the show did not imply abandoning the work. Building motorcycles and honing his art are two of Shannon Esau's ongoing activities in the Las Vegas custom industry. He occasionally appears at trade exhibitions and motorcycling events, and the custom community still holds his name in high regard. He has never said anything negative about the show or the store, and he doesn't seek attention from the public. That stillness speaks volumes in its own right. Shannon's secret departure disappointed fans who appreciated his consistent presence and skillful builds. But Shannon's legacy is untarnished, revered, and clean, in contrast to those who departed under turbulence. His narrative demonstrates that not all departures are caused by conflict. Sometimes they are about pursuing one's true passion in silence. There are many peaks and valleys in the worlds of reality TV and customized vehicles. One of them encountered particular difficulties, and their departure influenced Danny Koker and Count's traditions. Even though the garage had its share of ups and downs, Danny's love of cars and his desire to create the greatest kept things moving forward.